Hello, everyone, and welcome to a fun, free homeschool class. Today I have Kim from Spunk and Tenacity. She is going to be doing a super fun dinosaur art class. So, Kim, tell us about what kind of materials people need to be able to participate.
Well, I will tell you that I am going to be using watercolors, and I'm going to be using watercolor paper specifically so that we can learn about how our watercolors mingle. I'm going to be using oil pastels so that we can see how watercolors resist on wax. But I will tell you, if you don't have any of those, I'm going to show you one of our little friends here close by made some art with acrylic paint. So you can still make it regardless of what you have at home. Now, if you want to make it exactly like I do, we're using watercolors and either oil pastels or crayons. So the thing with the crayons is you want to make sure they're the regular crayons, not any of the special like metallic or glitter crayons, just a traditional crayon.
Looks like we have two people joining us live. Go ahead and share where you're joining us from and who you have joining us. I'd love to give you a shout out.
Yes, for sure.
So I have to ask, do you guys like dinosaurs? Are you dinosaur fans?
I mean, I'm a big dinosaur fan. One of the things that is our claim to fame here near where I live in Texas is we have a state park that has dinosaur tracks in it. So if you go when the river is low, you can see the dinosaur tracks in it. And so dinosaurs are kind of a big thing here.
I'm in Arizona today, so I'm hoping once it starts warming up around here and slowing down for me, that I can go and see some really cool sights here.
Nice.
Dinosaurs included.
Nice.
So if you guys are ready to get started, if you have your paper and your paints all ready to go ahead and drop an emoji in the chat. If you can find something dinosaur themed or art related, you get bonus points.
So when everybody's ready, we're actually going to take a little detour first because this is how I start all of my art lessons. And since this is a little bit shorter lesson, I like to start my book or my lessons with a book. And since this lesson is based on Cookiesaurus Rex, we're actually going to read it really quick because it's a super sweet book. It's kind of hilarious. So we're going to read Cookiesaurus Rex. He is a little cookie with a big attitude. And he is illustrated by A.G. Ford, who is a fantastic illustrator. You might know him from some of the Magic Treehouse books. So I'm going to put my book down here so everybody can see it. And he says, "Hey, you down here, I'm Cookiesaurus Rex, the king of all cookies. So you should frost me first." Ooh, I like the green. Green is great. Sprinkles? I don't have any sprinkles. Hey, where are you going with those shiny stars? Flower gets a gumdrop nose and I don't? That stinks. Wait one stinking stomping minute. Why do they get all the good stuff? I'm Cookiesaurus Rex and all I have is gloppy green frosting and this stupid hat. Do-over. I want a do-over. Please? Dinos don't have to say please. Dinos say roar and grr and I'll eat you one toe at a time. Okay, here we go. This is going to be good. I'm big. I'm bad. I'm a ballerina. This isn't funny. Not even a little. Not even an eensy-weensy tiny cookie crumb of funny. You have to start over. Because I say so. And no messing around this time. No, 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 no. They did. They give him a diaper. I want sprinkles. I want gumdrops. I want chocolate chips. Uh-oh. I've had it. Give me that frosting. It's my turn. Ooh, that's cold. Brr, goosebumps on my tail. Drum roll, please. I'm Super Cookie. What are you doing? Wait, no. Haha, I'm quacking up. Just you wait. Grr. Hey-ya! No one messes with the ninja bread, Dino. Quit clowning around. You're very tricky. But I have tricks too, because I'm one smart cookie. Oh, that's heavy. Pointy, sparkle. Owie, ouch, ouch. Whoops, tickle spot. Just a little more. Ta-da! Told you, I was king of all cookies. Now who's laughing, smarty pants? And I've used all the decorations, so you can't do anything about it. Why are you looking at me like that? Wait one stinking stomping minute. What are you doing? Wait, no. Oh, yuck. Grr. He took a licking. That was spectacular. This isn't over. This cookie doesn't crumble. So I love Cookiesaurus Rex. There's also a Cookiesaurus Christmas that I would love to add to our collection, but I think Cookiesaurus Rex is pretty silly. So now that we have found where the inspiration for this art comes from, let's talk about Cookiesaurus Rex. When I start painting anything, I outline it first, or at the very least, I put down some dots so I know how big I want to draw it. The bigger I draw it, the better I can paint it so that it has room. So one thing I like to do is I like to make a dot where the top of his head is going to be. So I'm just going to make a little dot, and I'm using my oil pastel. So I'm going to make a little dot, and I'm going to make it, for me, it's about 3 fingers down from the top of my paper. Now, it might be a little different for you. And then I'm going to make it about an even amount up from the bottom. So I'm going to put another little dot, just so I know that's how tall I want my cookie to be. Now, I'm going to put a dot kind of the same distance over here on the side, because that's kind of how wide I want them to be. And then I'm going to add some fingers, and I'm going to put a dot where the end of his nose is going to be. So now I have 4 little dots that tell me about how big I want my cookie to be. So I'm going to start with his head, and I'm going to put 2 fingers down and do an arch around them. And the reason I use my fingers is so that I can make sure I make his head big enough for me to paint. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Amelia?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and we can still see your page.
Okay, then that's all that matters. I don't know quite what happened there, but we fell off. Technology. We are having a thunderstorm here, so that might be part of it. Okay, so pardon that interruption, but now I'm going to turn my fingers sideways, and I'm going to draw his nose, and I'm going to do a sideways arch around my fingers, just like I did his head. So his nose is going to be a little bit longer. It's going to go like down to my knuckle. So now it's going to be a little bit farther down your finger. So you see I did an arch for his head and an arch for his nose. Now I'm going to come down about a finger's length, and I'm going to put a little dot so I have something to aim at. I'm going to make, for the back of his head, I'm going to make a little curved line. So it's just a slight curve, not like a whole watermelon, and it comes down. So there's the back of his head. And I'm going to do kind of the same thing. It's like a C for the front of his neck. And I'm going to come down and see how it kind of curves out like a C. And then I'm going to go around one finger like that. Okay, so I'm going to come up here, go around like a finger. And then I'm going to stop. That's the bottom of his arm. And then to make sure I'm doing them even, I'm going to jump across and I'm going to do his back arm. I'm going to come down and this finger is going to kind of point down. So I'm going to put my dot so I know where to aim at. And I'm going to do kind of a straight line down. And then I'm going to do a curved line like the end of a finger again and come back. So how's everybody doing? Am I going too fast or are we doing okay? If I don't see any panic faces, then I'm going to keep going. Okay.
We have 7 people with us that are joining in.
Perfect. We are right in the middle of doing our cookie. So we did an arch for his head. We did a sideways arch for his nose. We did an upside down finger for his arm and a right side up finger for that arm. And now I'm going to do a backward C for right there. And then it's going to start curving out into his tail. Now over here on this side, he's going to curve out into a big belly. And I want his belly to come down about a hand above where my bottom dot is. No, that's not even my dot. Ignore that dot. That's an extra dot. I thought, what's that dot doing out there? All right. So I'm going to draw his belly and I'm going to come around and it's a curved line that goes a little bit backwards for his chubby little belly. Think about cookies. We like them big and fluffy, right? And so his belly curves backwards right there. And now he's going to have 2 legs. Let's see, watch my fingers. They curve around like a finger pointing out, and then he's going to have another finger that points out down here. So I'm going to take from the bottom of his belly, and I'm thinking, and I could even turn it upside down if I wanted, but I'm going to come around in a curve. So I'm going to come down and swoop around his finger, and I'm going to make an arch. So it's like a rainbow shape, right? And I'm going to come down to the bottom of his other leg. He's going to get another arch or a finger shape that's going to come back, and that's going to be where his tail's going to start on this end. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to be kind of even with the bottom of his mouth, and that's where I want his tail to end. He's got a big T-Rex tail. So I'm going to bring this tail around in an arch. And I like to take my arches down. When they're big arches, downward arches usually work better for me. I don't know why that is. And then I'm going to do another little finger shape. So I do a little arch. And this time we're going to come down in a hook, almost like a fish hook that comes down and around. So it's going to slide straight, 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 straight down for a bit, and then swoop around. I'm going to connect them. And there is the outline of Cookiesaurus Rex. How are we doing so far? Everybody, how's your, I wish I could see your Cookiesaurus. I hope they're looking pretty great. Now for my Cookiesaurus, I'm going to come back up and I'm going to give him a straight across mouth. And I'm going to give him 2 circles for his eyes. Like so. Okay. And then because he's a cookie, he doesn't have a lot of details right now. Now you can add on some more details, and this is where it gets kind of fun. So I'm using some really bright colors. I actually have some neon oil pastels so that you can see them. And one of the best parts about oil pastels or crayons with watercolors is that they show through. So I'm going to give him some details. Like I might give him a green line that follows the curve of his body. I might do another one on his belly. I might do some toes. I might make his nose green. I'm going to give him some teeth. So for his teeth, I'm just going to use some triangles. Now, because his mouth is shut, I'm only going to give him one set of teeth. You might like to do 2 sets of teeth, one on the bottom, one on the top. And you know what? I'm going to use another color just because I like a lot of color. So I'm going to come along here and I'm going to give him a big orange swipe there. I'm going to give some in here and here. You can give as many details as you want to. I'm going to give him one more down here and maybe some on his head right along the back. But now I'm going to move out here and I'm going to put some in the background. So we're keeping this kind of simple today, but you could get more detailed. You could put other cookies in the background. You could put sprinkles in the background. If you did this project again on your own, you can make it as detailed as you want. I'm going to keep it a little bit simple today. And I'm going to add some color. I might add some squiggly lines. I might add some squiggly lines up here. A squiggly line there. Because Cookiesaurus Rex was pretty animated. He had a lot to say, so I feel like he's got big, bright motions. So I'm going to add in some pink here, and then I'm almost done. So my zigzaggies, I might do some colorful lines like that. I could do a swirl. Okay, so once you have all of your oil pastel or your crayon down, it's time to get out your watercolors. And this is where I think the magic of watercolors really shows through, especially if you haven't used them a lot. So I'm using pan watercolors, so I'm using Crayolas. You can use any watercolors you have. You see, mine are a little messy. I was mixing colors in there, but you can decide what color you want your Cookiesaurus Rex to be. You could add his diaper from when they made him into a baby because he was complaining. You could add his ballerina outfit. I think I'm going to make him green. So I'm going to put some water on my brush and I'm going to wet down my watercolors here. And then I'm going to come along the top and I want to show you something. So if I use dry paper with my wet brush and I go down, you'll see it's pretty thick. And look at that. It just goes right over my oil pastel. And my oil pastel still shows through bright and beautiful. And I just think that's wonderful. But watch this. If I get my brush wet and I wet down my paper first, watch what happens. I take my paint and look, it goes whoosh, and it spreads out for me. So I actually have less work to do as an artist if I wet down my paper first. The water will pull it around for me. And because I outlined Cookiesaurus Rex with an oil pastel, it kind of keeps it where I wanted him, where I intended for it to be. It keeps it right inside. So here I'm going to show you again. If you want it really dark, you keep your paper dry. You can see that's a little bit darker. But if you want a little bit lighter color or you want your paint to swoosh out like that, then you wet your paper first and look, it'll spread it around for you. And so that's pretty fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and continue wetting down my paper. And this technique is called wet on wet. So I have wet paper and I'm adding wet watercolor to it. And then I'm going to pull in my wet watercolor. I'm going to do a little bit at a time to ensure that my paper stays wet. It's a smaller area, so it'll probably stay pretty wet, but if you let it get too dry, it doesn't work out quite as well. And then I'm going to go over here to the edge. All right, and then I'm going to wet my brush down again, and I'm just going to keep on going up my dinosaur. So
what colors are you guys making your dinosaurs? I'd love to hear in the comments what colors are you using.
All right. I would love to know if anybody was familiar with Cookiesaurus Rex before this, and if they have read Cookiesaurus Rex before, and if they've read, we haven't read Cookiesaurus Christmas yet. It was on our list this year, but it was always checked out at the library. So I wanted to see if anybody had any feedback about that. Or maybe it's new to all of us. So I'm going to continue, and I'm just going to paint right over his mouth, and I'm going to paint right over his teeth. I'm going to grab some more green and get it in there, get it wet. I'm going to put some green in that water that's sitting there. And then come around. Okay, so now here's something else I'm going to do. So my cookie is all the way green now, and it didn't even take very long. I'm going to come back and I'm going to grab what I like to call a friendly color. So it's a color that's usually right next to it on the color wheel. It's usually right next to it in the watercolor. So in this case, I'm going to use some yellow. And I'm going to drop this yellow right in there and watch what happens. Because my paint is still wet, it blooms in there. So it spreads in there. So I'm going to take some more yellow. And this is how I make my dinosaur. I give them a little bit of what's called implied texture. If you think about dinosaur skin, it's like a lizard skin, right? So it's probably not super smooth like a rock. So it's going to have some variety in it. So this is one way to help give it a little bit of variety. Now, if you don't like the dotted look, so I think that's pretty cool, but if you don't like it, you could always mix it around. And because they're next to each other, because yellow is one of the primary colors that makes green, they will just blend in really nicely together and they won't turn brown. So that's one of the most important things I think when we start choosing colors is trying to figure out how to make brown on purpose and then how not to make it when we don't want it. So there you go. So now he's got some variety in his color. So that's pretty cool, right?
Hi to
There
the
we go.
newcomers that are just joining us now. We are doing
Hi.
some watercolor dinosaur painting. We're using oil pastels and watercolors together. So there will be a recording available so that you can catch the beginning of this as well.
Absolutely. So now, so my pad is a little messy, but here's something else that's pretty cool. You can take your watercolors, and most of them, whether it's clear or whether it's white, and you can mix your own color. So do you ever do that? You pull over a color. So I have like this turquoise, and it's kind of, maybe I want it to be a little darker. I can pull my blue, put a little blue in there, wet it down a little bit, and then I have my very own unique color that wasn't already on my paint. I just made a whole new color that I can paint with. And I think that's pretty fun. I like making up my own colors. So you can do that for your background. I'm going to choose blue because I don't want my background to be green because then he'll just blend in with it, right? So I want my background to be a color that helps him stand out, makes him go pow. And then I just really like blue. Blue is one of our favorite colors in the house. So we use a lot of blue in our art. So I'm going to do that. And again, I want to show you, this is what happens if I use, so I'm using a wet brush on dry paper. So just to look at what we were doing earlier with our cookie, if we wet down our paper first and then put our color in there, put our blue paint, it'll pull it right in and it'll help us. When I have big spaces that I want to paint, I like to wet down my paper first because one, it helps it go a little bit quicker, but it also helps it to go a little bit more evenly, I think. So I like to use wet on wet, is what it's called, wet down my paper first and then paint it with my wet watercolor to help it go a little quicker, look smoother. So are you painting along with us, Amelia?
I don't have my watercolors with me right now.
Oh, well, when you do, you should make a Cookiesaurus Rex and show it to us. That'd be fun. I would love to see your Cookiesaurus Rex.
That would be super fun. Dana Baker says that Cookiesaurus Rex is totally new to her.
Oh, does she like it though? Or does she think think, man, what an obnoxious cookie. I have to tell you, so here's I felt like my little moment of fame. And this is the magic of social media. So I posted this on my Instagram, and A.G. Ford, who is the illustrator for Cookiesaurus Rex, commented on it. And I was like, I have achieved all of my childhood dreams now. So I thought that was pretty fun. So I would love to see if we can get some pictures from any of the kids up there. If any of the parents want to share some pictures, you certainly don't have to, but we'll see if we can grab his attention again. Just because I think it's fun for the kids to see the possibilities of where they can take some of their interests as they get older. And he just seems like a genuinely nice human being anyways. But so here I am still just watering down my paper. This would be a good time if you have multiple brushes, because the background is a little bit bigger, to pull in one of your bigger brushes if you wanted to. But it's also kind of fun. It's, you know, kids, we don't always understand the term meditative when we're little, but it is very relaxing, I think. Great for kids to have, you know, something that is just kind of repetitive and
there's a reason the
creative.
coloring pages are so popular.
Yes, exactly. There's a reason that we as adults are like, oh, I have like to color again.
So you basically get to create your own little coloring page, you guys. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and that's actually a great point. Is sometimes, especially if kids haven't done a lot of art on their own, it's sometimes hard for them to understand, because they do a lot of coloring, that when you're making your outlines, what you're doing is you're creating your own coloring page, like you said. And so when you start explaining it like that, they're like, oh, that's cool. In fact, my daughter has made coloring pages for her friends when she'll like do her own outline, and then she'll do another one for them. And
oh, that's super fun.
It is super fun. So you might see, look, so the oil pastel, it makes a fence for your watercolor, but that doesn't mean that your colors won't jump it. But it's not like, I like it when my colors mingle. It doesn't break my heart. But sometimes we get a little stressed out because we're taught all the time, color inside the lines, color inside the lines. But I say, forget about the lines. Don't worry about coloring inside the lines. I think that's one of the things about watercolor that's pretty great. See, look, I just did it again. But if you don't like that, then while your watercolor is still wet, you want to leave a little barrier around him that's just white. And then you can always go back and fill that in after it dries out if you're worried about your colors hanging out together, mixing in together. Me, I don't mind them. Now, if you wanted to add some blooms to your background, this part over here is going to be getting a little bit too dry to do that. So I'll show you how we can do that when we finish up, because it does need to be kind of wet to do that. Another fun thing to do, which we're not doing in this lesson, but we do in some other lessons in the membership for kids, is take some table salt and put it in your watercolor. And then there's a whole science behind why it works, but the table salt sucks it in and it gives it some texture that way too. So that's pretty fun.
What do you guys have coming up in the art club for Spunk and Tenacity? What kind of art projects are you going to be working on?
Okay, well, so this month, so we launch our new units at the beginning of the month, and so this month we are doing a dinosaur themed unit, and we are learning color theory and some basic watercolor and acrylic techniques. So we've explored some more serious dinosaurs, maybe not a cookie. We've explored some that are maybe a little bit more scientifically correct, and their habitats with some watercolors. And we explore, being intentional in our color choices. If we want to be, you can choose any color you want, but just kind of doing it on purpose. We did a lesson on The Girl and the Dinosaur. So I don't know if you've ever read that, but that is a beautiful, magical book. Illustrator Sarah Massini is a hero of mine, and it's about this little girl who wishes that her dinosaur would come to life, and it comes to her in her dreams and takes her on a magical flight. And I'm super excited because Sarah Massini and the author, who I have to admit I can't think of her name right now, but they just wrote another one called The Girl and Her Mermaid. And I was like, oh, I cannot wait. I'm like a kid in a candy store. And then next month we're going to do some more acrylics and watercolors. That's really kind of where we stay, is with our acrylics and our watercolors. And we're learning about texture with Arctic animals. So that's
fun.
looking to be pretty amazing. So I'm running out of color here.
Dana says that it's a bit late in the UK right now, so she's going to show it to her kids later. They will probably like the book and probably want to make cookies as well as paint.
That's excellent. I hope that they do all of the above. Thank you so much for joining us.
And for anyone that is just joining us now, I see that we have a couple people that just hopped on. We are painting Cookiesaurus Rex. A lot of fun. This is using mixed media, so it is watercolor and oil pastels or crayons, and you will be able to catch the replay over on our YouTube channel. If you enjoy this art lesson, I highly recommend that you check out the Spunk and Tenacity Art Club. She is offering 50% off the first payment with code New Year's 23. So I also have a comment with the link, and I have that up on the screen now, so you guys can go and check that out.
So let's see, we're almost, like I said, this is kind of a short and sweet lesson because everybody's usually pretty busy this first week of January, recovering.
Yes.
Recovering from all the crazy. We still have like all the decorations to take down, and every year I'm like, I'm going to be done, and then January 1st rolls around and I'm not done. But that's okay. Keeps the magic a little longer. Let's see. Okay, so now if I want to make him bloom, again, I'm going to look for something that kind of blends well with my blue. And there's a big fancy name for it, but I call them friendly colors. And for me, because he's green and because my blue is right next to my green, I might choose yellows or greens back in this. So I'm going to wet it back down because you remember we did this part early in our background painting, and we want it to be wet in order for it to bloom well. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to take some of that green. And if you'll see, when I push down on it, it makes those pretty blooms in it. And again, you could always choose to do another color. So I might try to add in some yellows in there. And then it's easy to get a little carried away with your blooms. I do it all the time. And then I'm like, oh, I no longer have blue. And that's okay. I have a whole new color. But so I'm going to wet this down over here, and with a little bit darker blue over here, let's see what happens. I'm going to take my green. So he doesn't show up as much. So that's just something to be aware of. When you want your blooms to show up, you keep it a little bit more translucent, which means a little bit more see-through. If you have it a little bit darker, a little bit thicker, your blooms don't show up quite as well, and that's okay. It just kind of depends on what you're looking for. Now over here, I want to show you, my paper is almost completely dry. So if I put my green on it, it just sits right on top. It just kind of layers in there. And that's okay if you want to make like polka dots or you want to make streaks with it. But if you're looking for the blooms, you want to make sure you're wetting it down first so that you can get either this really pretty like splotches, or then you can even mix it in like we did here. So I'm going to go back and add some water and some blooms around my art. And then that's about the extent of Mr. Rex here.
Thank you so much for doing this class for us today. I think this is a really great fun project to start off the year with, and gets people, it's a way to be able to kind of ease into the new year, be able to incorporate some art in your homeschool. So I highly recommend you guys go check out her art club. It makes it really easy for you to be able to incorporate art into your child's homeschool education.
Exactly. So let's see. I would love to see pictures of everybody's Cookiesaurus Rex.
Yes.
Normally, if we, so on my membership, they're all pre-recorded videos. So I say, go ahead and pause the video, if it's going too fast. So they'll be able to do that with the replay. So let's see. I'm going to pause from my blooming here in just a second. And then.
So please share a photo of your Cookiesaurus Rex in the comments. We would love to see it.
Yes, let me see if I can make this work. It was not getting along with me earlier. I don't know if I can turn this around. Nope. Settings. Video. Hi, there I am. All right, so I wanted to show you some of the art that we are doing, if it's still hanging up here. So this is our girl in the dinosaur. We are learning about watercolors with, oops, right side up, we have some dinosaurs and some dino habitats. And then for our annual members, we always have a kind of bigger project where we put together some of the things that we've learned. And so our big project, which are excellent if you have multiple ages or several students at home. And so we did a big collage. And so we did some of our dinosaurs. We took, we're making some clay fossils. So we did dinos above and below. So we glued them on here. We made some dirt, and then we did a background for what we thought maybe a prehistoric area might look like. So that is what we're doing. We do talk a little bit about how to diversify, depending on whether we have younger students or older students, make it a much more simple background for your younger students, maybe just a sky and the ground, or you can then, for the little bit older students, you can add in some more details. So it's, hopefully very adaptable for your homeschool.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Kim.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I'm looking forward to seeing all the dinosaurs in the comments.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, everyone.